Okay, so it's time for a drink, so I'm going to be very brief. We've had a long day. We actually had 15 sessions today, either panels or fireside. That's a lot of sessions. We've heard from Ray Dalio all the way through to Orlando Bravo and everyone in between, which is a significant A-list group. So thank you all for speaking and for sponsoring. It's been tremendous. We hope that there have been a lot of learnings and fodder for upcoming discussions, starting with tonight and maybe going into the coming days and weeks. I also want to thank Russell Sherman for his tremendous job as the Master of Ceremonies. That's not an easy job, and he's handled it with elan and great grace. So thank you, Russell, and also the really hardworking team at the Financial Times. Bruce and I are tough customers, and they've done a really wonderful job as our production partners. So thank you to the FT. I need to also thank our sponsors again, because we have many of them, and again, we actually had more high-level sponsors this year than we've ever had, which is really refreshing and wonderful to have. So thank you all for your generosity. I'm going to say the names real quick again. iCapital, Chevron, Churchill Nuveen, Ares, Atomize, BlockFi, Blue Bay, Capital Constellation, Fitch, Gilded, Grayscale, Hong Kong Exchange, Hubei Technologies, Jefferies, MFA, Thoma Bravo, Tianfeng Securities, Wafra, Yield Street, CTIFS, Hunter Point Capital, JP Morgan Private Banking, and Standard Chartered. So thank you all. It's a lot of names. Great job. We really appreciate your support. Without you, we would not have been able to have this conference. Just two other quick things, and I'll introduce, or one of the quick things, and I'll introduce the governor. Tomorrow, we are going to have some incredible speakers, including, just to name one, Noah Kerner of Acorns. And we will have topics we didn't cover today, including politics and government, including from some European and American government leaders. You know, today was jam-packed full of discussions and very high energy. Tomorrow's going to be more relaxed and more about networking and chatting with one another. We're going to have another, I think it looks like another good day at the Del Mar, especially in the morning. We're going to start at 9, 10 in the morning. We're going to have breakfast and lunch like we did today. So please join us tomorrow. And for our closing comments, we're honored to have the governor. I am very proud that we have both a progressive and pragmatic governor in Ned Lamont. And because of his effective leadership to date, Connecticut, as probably most of you know, but just to state it, the fact, has had better health outcomes and economic vibrancy than our neighboring states. So thank you for your leadership and joining us today, and welcome.
Thanks, Jim. All right. So I'm number 16. The bar is already open, and I just got a 2-hour treatise on what's going on in Connecticut. This is great being back here in person. I did this 2 years ago. I told you I was the first business guy to lead this state in many, many decades, and we inherited a little bit of a mess. I can tell you about that. That's not that much fun. Tell you really about what I learned governing as well, because coming out of the business world, I used to build cable TV systems. It's unique training for this job. But 3 years ago, we took over. How was Annie, by the way? That's my wife, Annie Lamont, over there. Was she any good this morning? That's not bad. All right. It's B+. We took over. We had about a $3.5 billion deficit, people leaving the state of Connecticut. We had raised taxes 4 times working. GE had just left the state. Last one out, turn out the lights. So this state, I thought, had a real confidence problem. And one of the things I really wanted to do was try and turn that around. And that first year was pretty tough, working with a cantankerous legislature. But we got the budget balanced. We got it balanced without raising taxes. That hadn't happened in decades and decades. Didn't get any Republican support. Any Republicans here? Yeah, I could have used a little support. How many people here from Connecticut, by the way? Raise your hand. That's pretty good. How many wish you were here and living in Connecticut? That's pretty good. How many of you are getting a little older and thinking about moving to Delray, Florida? Any? All right, not many. That's good. I'll take that. Anyway, we had some work to do. And the first thing I really wanted to do as governor, outside of getting our fiscal house in order and balancing the budget without raising taxes, and we got 2 surpluses in a row, was get the business community involved. I mean, it doesn't work if we don't have the business community actively involved. We'd always had sort of a bipolar state, Fairfield County, the rest of the state, business community, sort of stiff-armed away. We tried to change that dramatically. The first thing I wanted to do was bring in a different breed of cat to help us, run the state. Usually you run a campaign, you get a lot of the guys who are in the campaign, and those are your advocates, and those advocates end up, running different departments. And I love the guys I worked on in the campaign because I didn't know much about campaigning, so they were able to help me on that. But we brought in a different group. I think I just saw David Lamont over there. He came over from Goldman. He runs economic development for us. Every day I can keep him on board is amazing. Josh Jabal, Department of Administrative Services. Nobody ever heard of it. It's sort of a backwater job. They do purchasing, they do contracting, they do personnel, they do IT. I said, I think it's probably the most important job in the state. And usually you had a mayor or you had a state senator in their job. I got Josh Jabal. He spent 12 years at IBM, a totally different type of person, helping to make the changes in our state we got to make. We're going to shrink. We're not going to shrink what state government does, but we're going to bring in technology to make sure we can do it a lot more efficiently and effectively. Bongi Magabani, she was head of IT at Aetna. And you say, well, where are you going to put her? I put her in charge of DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. You know why? Because everybody loves to kick around Department of Motor Vehicles. And I said, let's go. Let's use a little technology, see if we can change this. So she was in the job 2 years, and you now can, renew your license in your pajamas, having a latte at home in bed on your iPhone. So we're trying to change the perception of what we do. I'll say just one other person. I can't have all outsiders. My friend Paul Mounds is right over there. Paul's our chief of staff. He went to school and played football with half the legislature. That is great because you got to know these folks and to know what makes them tick. And that's how you get things done. I'll tell you that we've made extraordinary progress. I got all the business leaders I could signed up for Advanced CT. Advanced CT is, they carry the spears for us. Anytime somebody's looking at the state of Connecticut, thinking about moving here, they can talk to me. They can talk to David. We're kind of homers. You know what we're going to get from us. So if it's in digital media, if it's in finance or fintech, we have somebody in that related industry reach out and say, I'm in Connecticut. I like being in Connecticut. Let me tell you peer-to-peer why you ought to be here. And it's making a difference. I mean, we've got, dozens of companies have recently located, fintech, Bitcoin, Philip Morris, we're turning the tide, changing the perception. And it's not just in Stamford, Greenwich. I'm from here, but it's from all over the state. iCapital, where's Lawrence? There he is, just moving in, taking a lot of space here. By the way, there's no more space in Greenwich. Sorry, we're booked. You're going to have to keep moving up. I'm not putting up the mission accomplished sign, by the way, on the aircraft carrier. We still have some work we got to do. You maybe know we've borrowed ourselves into a bit of a hole. We have $40 billion in outstanding debt, mainly pension obligations that were racked up over the last 30 years. But we're making progress. For the first time in history, we're paying down $1.5 billion of pension debt. And got a way to go. I appreciate it. But, just as importantly, everybody that I hire now, which is a lot fewer than the folks who are leaving, but everybody we hire is in a defined contribution and partial pension plans, and that's making an enormous difference, bigger contributions. So our public sector employees can really compete with the private sector, and that's what they got to do as we figure out how we deliver services going forward. IT, I told you about IT. It's not easy to do in state government. It's not easy to do because labor sometimes thinks it's going to be taking their job, and politicians say, why do I want to invest in IT? It's going to benefit my successor and not me. But we've made an enormous down payment in IT. You wouldn't believe walking around state government. Everywhere, every office I went to was wall-to-wall file cabinets. People walking up, getting a piece of paper, coming back. So I think we're able to make a difference there. Like I told you the story about DMV, show people that we can have a state that treats each and every one of you like a customer. And that's made an enormous difference in terms, I think, of perception going forward. I still got a few things we got to do. Legislature can be a little cranky. This is the, Tesla capital of the world. You can't buy a Tesla here in the state of Connecticut. Can you believe it? The Automobile Dealers Association said no. So we got a little bit of work to do about that. I was a little surprised one day. I called up 1-800-CONTACT LENS. They said, sorry, there's been a law passes a few years ago. You have to now go to an optometrist before you can get your contact lenses online. The Optometry Association contacts the legislature and things happen. I said, well, hope I don't have to go to a podiatrist before I get a new pair of shoes. But there's a certain mentality, but I think I love the state. I think the state is on the mend. I think the state is going forward. I got to tell you, over the last couple of years, people are having a second look at the state of Connecticut. They're having a second look at the state of Connecticut because we got our fiscal house in order. They're taking a second look at the state of Connecticut because we've managed COVID pretty well. We have a higher vaccination rate, lower infection rate than any state in the country. And that's going back a lot of time, gives people some confidence. If you don't think this is the last pandemic, you think you may have to quarantine, maybe being in a town with a little backyard is not a bad place to be. So that's why 25,000 families moved into the state of Connecticut, a net increase over the last few years. And finally, you heard from the last panel, we kept our schools open. We kept our schools open. It was, to me, the right thing to do for our kids. I heard all about that Zoom learning. It wasn't that big a hit in Hartford and Bridgeport. A lot of kids were getting left behind. I wasn't going to let that happen. And by the way, if you want mom and dad to be able to get back to work, you've got to have the schools open. Our schools were open last September. Our schools are open this September. I'm a little strict, which has people grumpy. I'm asking the younger kids to wear a mask because they're not vaccinated. I'm telling the teachers they've got to be vaccinated. But our schools are open. We haven't had to have any quarantines to speak of at this point. And I think we're getting back to a new normal. I'm looking at COVID. I look at the heat map. It's coming up from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. But with 86% of our adults vaccinated and most of the 12 to 18, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Anyway, I know the bar's open. I'll just tell you that I'm really proud of the Greenwich Economic Forum. I really appreciate you guys being here at the end of an incredibly long day. For those of you who are lucky enough to be in Connecticut, I thank you. You've got a friend in the governor's office. I'll do anything I can to help you grow and expand right here, but move fast while there's space. And those of you still thinking about it, think no longer. Connecticut's your home. Thanks, everybody.